I had been looking forward to my sister Clara's wedding for months. Growing up, she and I had shared countless memories, from late-night secrets to childhood arguments, and I had always imagined being by her side on her big day. But as soon as I arrived at the venue, I could sense that something had shifted. The air was thick with expectation, excitement, and, strangely, tension. Tension directed squarely at me. The ceremony hall was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers, rows of white chairs with golden sashes, and a soft carpet leading to the altar, where Clara would exchange vows with her fiancé. Guests were arriving, laughter and chatter echoing throughout the space. I stepped forward, eager to find my seat, only to be intercepted by Clara's mother-in-law, a woman known for her sharp tongue and haughty demeanor. She looked me up and down, a smirk curling her lips. "You'll be seated in the hallway," she said casually, as if delivering a routine instruction. "Only close family gets inside." My heart sank. I blinked, unsure if I had heard correctly. The hallway? Outside the main ceremony hall? Away from the celebration? Away from my sister's big day? I felt a flush of anger and humiliation. I'm her sister," I stammered. "I should be inside." The woman's smirk widened, unapologetic. "Yes, but close family. You understand, don't you?" I swallowed the lump in my throat, realizing that arguing here would accomplish nothing. The hallway was my only option, a narrow corridor lined with doors and dusty coats. I sat stiffly on a folding chair someone had set against the wall, my dress brushing against the tile floor. From my vantage point, I could hear every word of the ceremony, every laugh, every whispered vow. Yet I was excluded from the visual grandeur, relegated to a shadowy corner where my presence was barely acknowledged. As Clara's vows echoed through the hall, I felt a mix of hurt, anger, and disbelief. I had always thought weddings were moments to honor family. Yet here I was, treated as an outsider in my own sister's most important day. Her mother-in-law, watching from the front row, continued to smirk, clearly enjoying my discomfort. But as I sat in the hallway, a quiet resolve began to grow within me. I realized that while they could dictate my seat, they could not dictate my presence or my dignity. I refused to let their arrogance ruin my sense of self. If I couldn't be close physically, I could still be present emotionally, mentally, and morally. I began to observe, not just the ceremony, but the people around me, their expressions, their interactions, the subtle dynamics of attention and influence. By the time the reception began, I had formulated a plan. I would reclaim my presence, not through confrontation, but through composure, confidence, and subtle assertion. I mingled in the hallway, greeting other guests who had been overlooked or marginalized, creating a small network of warmth and connection. My quiet confidence began to draw attention. People noticed that I was not sulking, not begging, not shrinking. I was standing tall, even in the hallway. Eventually, Clara came out to greet guests after the ceremony. When she saw me, her eyes widened, a flash of guilt or surprise crossing her face. "You're here," she said softly, almost as if she had forgotten I existed. I smiled faintly. "Of course," I replied. "I wouldn't miss your wedding for anything." Her mother-in-law noticed our interaction and frowned, her smirk fading slightly. I could sense her discomfort. The power she had wielded through exclusion was slipping, simply because I refused to be diminished by it. Over the course of the evening, I gradually moved closer to the main hall, under the guise of offering assistance to guests, managing coats and guiding late arrivals. Each step was deliberate, controlled, and unassuming. By the time dinner was served, I had secured a seat at the edge of the main table, where I could observe and participate without openly challenging the authority that had initially humiliated me. The subtle triumph was not in forcing anyone to acknowledge me, but in maintaining my dignity and asserting my presence through quiet confidence. Guests noticed, whispered to one another, and even a few came over to express admiration for how composed I had been throughout the ordeal. My sister eventually joined me, squeezing my hand and whispering, "I'm sorry they treated you that way." I nodded, understanding that her apology, while small, acknowledged the injustice and validated my resilience. By the end of the night, I realized that the hallway, the smirk, and the exclusion had inadvertently taught me an important lesson. True power lies not in the physical space you occupy, but in the grace, confidence, and composure you maintain when others try to diminish you. My mother-in-law's attempt to assert superiority had failed, not because I confronted her, but because I refused to give her the reaction she craved. The wedding, despite its initial humiliation, became a defining moment. I had turned exclusion into quiet triumph, embarrassment into confidence, and a moment of intended humiliation into an exercise in self-respect. When the final dances ended, I left the hall with my head held high, knowing that I had reclaimed my presence, my dignity, and my narrative without descending into anger or confrontation. In the months that followed, family gatherings took on a new dynamic. My composure at the wedding had established an unspoken respect. My presence could no longer be overlooked or dismissed. The hallway incident became a story of personal triumph, one I would reflect on whenever I faced situations where others sought to belittle or exclude me. It reminded me that dignity and resilience are far more powerful than confrontation or complaint, and that true inclusion is earned not by proximity, but by the strength of character one carries with them.